Hi. So welcome to our final Zoom meeting of 2023, the first part of it. We hope to start up again in October, but this is the end of the third canto. And as we all remember, the end of the third canto ends with the pastimes and instructions of Lord Kapila-Dev, a unique incarnation of the Lord who advented to expound the Sankhya philosophy and also to teach the process of devotional service. So today's review will cover all the chapters of his teachings. Chapter 25, you may remember at the time we read 25, there were several lectures by Srila Prabhupada on those topics that he gave in Bombay in 1971, so we included those. And then all the way through chapter 33, which are the final activities described about Lord Kapila-Dev. So now we'll go into the texts and follow our process. This is lessons 5 and 6 from June of 2023. Continued review of the third canto. Samapriya, you want to pick some readers, and we'll start with this.
Yes, Hare Krishna,
Glories
everyone.
of devotional service.
What an accomplishment. Reading through this last section here was like coming home. It was so enlivening and so encouraging, really, this last section of Lord Kapila-Dev and Devahuti. Okay, so let's start today with Manvantara. Do you like to begin reading? The same way that we've done it before with the with these graphs.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. Chapter 1 through 5, Shaunaka Rishi's eagerness to hear about Lord Kapila. Glorification of Lord Kapila, chapters 6 through 7. I'm disgusted with material desires leading to ignorance. That was a quote from Devahuti. Devahuti's questions to Lord Kapila, chapters 6 through 11. And then text 8 through 9. You can dissipate this darkness. Devahuti speaking to Lord Kapila. Text 10 through 11, question 1. Dispel this illusion of aham mameti. Explain about jiva and pradikti.
You know what aham mameti, we know aham mameti means I am this body.
No. Yeah. What is it? I am not this body?
Aham mameti means I am this body.
Achha.
Right?
Okay.
But of course,
right.
That's an illusion, so we want to get that dispelled. Thank God it's an illusion.
Right. I remember the book that we did not want to follow that was posted on the site from Amazon about being engrossed in the body.
I see. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Chapter 12 through 27, Adhyatmika Yoga and its description, which answers question number 1. Devahuti's question number 1. Text 12 through 14. Adhyatmika Yoga consisting of Sankhya, Yoga, and Bhakti. Text 15 through 18. Pivotal role of the mind and symptoms of a liberated mind. Text 19 through 20. The only auspicious path is Bhakti, which is attained by association of sadhus. Text 21 through 23 covers characteristics and activities of a sadhu. Text 24 through 25. Sadhu's association can gradually lead one to prema. Text 26 through 27. Practice of Gyan and Yoga incomplete without Bhakti. Chapter 28 through 30. Devahuti's further questions. Question 2. What kind of bhakti will help to easily attain you? Speaking to Lord Kapila. Question 3 through 4. Question 3 and 4. Explain Gyan, yoga, and its limbs. Chapter 31 through 44. Lord Kapila answers question number 2. Text 32 and 33. Recommends spontaneous bhakti, bhava. Text 34 through 38. Characteristics of devotees in bhava. Text 39 through 40. Vidhi sadhana bhakti. Text 41 through 44. The greatest benefit is possible only by offering one's mind to pure bhakti to me. That's Lord Kapila speaking to Devahuti.
This is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi
Vaidhi
sadhana.
bhakti.
Do
Thank
you
you.
remember what Vaidhi Bhakti is?
No.
Anybody?
It's the bhakti following the rules and regulations because
Yes.
he's still not at the
Acha.
level.
Okay.
Bhakti, so I follow the rules and regulations.
Yeah.
There's two types of sadhana bhakti. Sadhana
Mhm.
means following a path.
Okay.
Okay, there's Vaidhi Bhakti, which means the very strict rules and regulations as described in the first part of the Nectar of Devotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then Raganuga Bhakti is once one follows these Vaidhi Bhakti practices, then a
Mhm.
more spontaneous
Right. That makes sense.
inspiration awakens, and then the
Yeah.
person follows still a sadhana, but it's a
Right.
different, it's a practice impulsed by different things. You may remember it was talking about, I think Srila Prabhupada gave a lot of lectures about Bhivi Mangal Thakur in this particular section. And he was talking about how Bhivi Mangal Thakur had come to the stage of bhava in his previous life, but then had fallen down and had to start up again from there. Anything else from this chapter?
I love Devahuti's, I'm sorry.
Go on.
No, Devahuti's question, well, disgust with material desires, that really resonated with me.
Yeah, you have to be disgusted.
Yes.
Before you ask these kinds of questions. Why did you?
Exactly. And that's the only time you can tolerate the austerity of doing any kind of rules and regulations, such as this Vidhi Bhakti. Because once you're disgusted, the whatever comes with the rules, you can tolerate to follow. Do you know what I mean? Because
Sure.
it's just not painful or hard or difficult anymore. You know, the side effects of being so disgusted eliminates all of that.
Right, because you've experienced the even a more difficult suffering, trying to identify with the solution. So
Exactly.
so you get strength. That's why we're suffering. We get strength in the suffering. Very good, Manvantara. Okay.
Srila Prabhupada also sometimes gives the example of a person who's become ill or sick or diseased due to a certain bad pattern of life. And the doctor recommends changing that. And depending on the severity of the disease, the person becomes willing to undergo a dietary change, exercise, whatever it might be. If they're not so sick, then they're not so willing to change. But when they become more and more diseased and more suffering, then they become more willing.
Yeah. Hence we suffer in this world because we don't belong here, and Krishna wants us to get out of here. Even though it's so painful, and we always question, why is this suffering happening to me? God doesn't love me, the whole thing. But it's actually his mercy. It's the mercy of the Lord when we suffer and see the true face of material energy. Okay, let's go on. Thank you, Manvantaraji. Tisha, would you like to read?
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 325, verse 7 and 8. Devahuti said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance. Your lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental I, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births. 3:25:13. The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The yoga system, as here stated by the Lord, is meant to end all material happiness and material distress. The best yoga, as taught in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, is Bhakti Yoga. It is also mentioned in the Gita that one should try to be tolerant and not be disturbed by material happiness or distress. Of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Lord Kapila states that the yoga system is the science of the spirit. One practices yoga in order to attain perfection on the spiritual platform. There's no question of material happiness or distress. It is transcendental. Lord Kapila will eventually explain how it is transcendental, but the preliminary introduction is given here.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Have you experienced this law? Do you have any knowledge of this law? How after
Absolutely.
how you're happy and all of a sudden you're distressed. My goodness, it doesn't last really long, does it? What's your experience, Tisha?
Well, I had this year's been a heck of a year for just going along every day and everything is fine. And then Wade got so sick and it was terrible. And then he started to get better. Then he would get sick again. It was like a seesaw, better sick, better, worse. And so it's still going on. And I would get happy and then I'd be scared, and it was exhausting. It's exhausting to go from one spectrum, to the other. But anyway, yeah.
You have to take shelter of the absolute truth. It's not going to be easy. It's not easy in ignorance either, because one's going to suffer anyway his allotment and enjoy his allotment. So we have to take shelter. What, my darling? What?
There's a purport. I think it's in this section, actually. I'm not so good at memorizing, but I'm trying to get better. But Prabhupada says that I have it on my wall at work, that you don't have to strive. Why are you striving for happiness all the time? You're striving for more money, or more happiness, or whatever. You don't have to strive for your allotment of happiness or pain is already decided.
Right.
It's your karma. So don't strive for what's more than what is coming to you. Whatever is yours is going to come to you without so much stress and aggravation to strive for more things. And so,
and we think that our happiness is based on the material world.
yeah,
That's our problem. We really think with these bodies, and our happiness is based on what's going on here.
yeah.
And it's such a relief, actually, to know it. This is not really where we belong. Thank you, Tisha. Okay, let's go on now. Madhurya, would you like to read Madhurya Leela?
I have
Sure.
one question.
Wait a second. Okay, let's wait for this question. Yes.
I think it's important. We say that like material, or everything in our material life is set. And so I know the answer kind of, but I also have questions about it. Is there only so much spiritual advancement one can make according to the karmatic package? Like, for instance, I may not have been able to be a brahmachari. In fact, my spiritual master said, no, that's not right for you. You should get married. So he just trained me to go into the contemporary ashram for 5 years and work. So that might be considered a slower route, or not so direct route. So is there according to one's package, according to how much spiritual practice they've done in previous lives, is there some restriction, or like, is there?
Okay. That's a good question. But you're not separating Sat from Asat. And that's what Sankhya Yoga is. Sat from Asat. Sat means reality. Asat is not reality. It's not truth. It's not truth. So karma has nothing to do with your Krishna consciousness. A dog can become, I was just hearing Shivananda Sen's appearance day was recent, so we were just hearing about that famous pastime with Shivananda Sen and the dog. He got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he got the mercy of a pure devotee, and he was able to transcend his dogness. The ultimate conclusion is he went back to Godhead. So it doesn't matter what material, that's the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness. It does not matter what our material situation is. If we're in the human form of life, of course, even a dog, but if we're in the human form of life, we have an opportunity to become self-realized in this life. Certain situations might be better than others, we think, but someone who's rich and famous and has everything he wants, that might not be so conducive to taking shelter of God, because one might be in the illusion of thinking, I am fully in control of this situation. It does not matter what material situation we are in. In fact, I hate to say it, but the worse, the better. If nothing's going right, then finally we come to Krishna and surrender to him. Kati, can you add to that?
Yes, in this particular verse that we just, section we just read, it's described here that the one who practices this yoga in order to attain perfection on the spiritual platform, there is no question of material happiness or distress.
Right.
It is transcendental. Lord Kapila Dev will eventually explain how it is transcendental, but the preliminary introduction is given here. So he's describing that we have to identify ourselves as a soul, not as our material circumstances, as Samapriya was just saying, especially in this age, with Lord Chaitanya's big umbrella of complete mercy, even on the most fallen souls, Chandalas, Sudras, Malechas. These people in previous Vedic ages were not accepted into the practices of elevation to spiritual plane, but by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we're all being given this opportunity simply by chanting. So in whatever circumstance one's in, as long as we can hear and chant, this will be gradually brought out by Lord Kapila Dev. And because we have a lot to cover, I hope we can continue.
Okay, can I just say one thing? The word transcendental, some people have a misconception or don't understand. Transcendental means beyond the modes of material nature, has nothing to do with this world. Transcendental. Okay, let's go on now. Madhurya Ji, can you continue? I'm sorry. Thank you. That was a great question.
This is 326, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Text 1 to 2, the benefits of hearing Sankhya. Freedom from the modes, self-realization, cutting the knot of attachment. 3 to 8, Jiva, Prakriti, Purusha, interactions and characteristics. The Lord's interaction with Prakriti is just a pastime by his will, and the Jiva's interaction with Prakriti leads to his bondage. His with a small h. The 9 to 49, characteristics of Pradhan, time, Mahatattva, and other elements. So that leads into characteristics and products of Pradhan, characteristics of time, characteristics of Mahatattva and Chitta, characteristics of false ego, and characteristics of products of false ego in Sattva and Rajas, mind, intelligence, and senses, characteristics of products of false ego in Tamas, Tan Matras, and 5 gross elements. Now 50 to 53 is Karya Shrishti, 54 to 61, creation of the various limbs of the Virat Rupa, 62 to 72, the Devatas attempt to wake the Virat Purusha, but finally only Vasudeva is successful.
So do you remember something about that, these verses that you'd like to share, Madhurya?
Well, it's all very technical stuff. So it's just about the different creation, different parts being created. And
But the question
characteristics.
arises, Madhurya, why is Lord Kapila going in that direction now? He's explained to his mother that being transcendental is the goal, but due to the modes of nature where the conditioned souls are entangled, why has he gone into such a scientific description of the fundamentals of material nature? What's the plan?
It's needed to realize the greatness of the Lord, and the vastness, the greatness, the depth, and I guess that's going to lead into the different incarnations, right? Have we read those yet? No, I can't remember.
No, he won't describe those. That's not really where he goes with his teachings.
We read Varaha.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
that's
saying,
true.
what is Lord Kapila is starting with the glories of devotional service was the first chapter. That was 25. Now this 26 is fundamentals of material nature. Why would he start with that after describing the glories of devotional service? Anybody?
I don't remember.
Oh, sorry. Go on. And then Manvantara after you.
Okay, so I think this is in response to Mother Devahuti's third question, which we read in the previous chapter, where she asks, please explain to me about jnana. So my understanding is this whole material creation and how it is created is all pertains to jnana. That's the only connection I could find in this regard.
Manvantara, thank you. Manvantara, do you want to add to that?
Through rereading, I realized that when I was writing the previous review about the calculation of time and all that, I found that in order to relate, it has to be relatable no matter where you are. So when Lord Kapila was discussing the fundamental principles of material nature, it was more to find something I think relatable. And like Madhurya Leela said, when you can find something relatable in nature and realize that how great and vast it is, you realize the cause of all causes. Like everything comes from Krishna, and you can realize that through relating to things that you already know. Things that you already are aware of. Such as whatever it is in nature. Or is happening, and you can just advance from there, realizing that God, Krishna, is the cause of all of this, and he is so vast and so infinite, and it just helped me realize that why even Pradikit was hearing all about the same thing. It's very instructional. I mean, when I realized that, it was just like amazing.
Okay. Patty, you want to shed some more light on this?
Actually, I'm a bit concerned here. We've only done 2 slides and it's been half an hour. We have 20.
Okay,
20
then let's go
slides.
on. Okay,
yeah.
we'll leave. Those were profound statements, and we'll
Good
leave it
answers.
at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sham, would you like to continue?
Yes, Mother Samagriya. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 326. Text 70 to 72. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with reason, at that very moment the cosmic being arose from the causal waters. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the supersoul helps him. Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that supersoul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. Purport. It is clearly mentioned here, bhaktya, that one has to execute devotional service to the Supreme, as it is stated in the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yogaha Prayojitaha. When Vasudeva, the all-pervading Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is served in completely pure devotion, detachment from the material world immediately begins. The purpose of Sankhya is to detach oneself from material contamination. This can be achieved simply by devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one is detached from the attraction of material prosperity, one can actually concentrate his mind upon the Supersoul. As long as the mind is distracted towards the material, there is no possibility of concentrating one's mind and intelligence upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his partial representation, Supersoul.
Patsy, did you want to just go on, or do you want to have discussions now?
I think what we can do, what I'm seeing is the pattern here, the way that these are working is that first there's the whole chapter, and then what I did was take out like an essence of the chapter and present that. So maybe what we can do is the charts and the slide after it, and then discuss that particular topic rather than trying to capture the whole chapter at once.
Okay.
But one thing I found while Sham was reading this was we were just talking about the previous slide, which was why so much detail about the fundamentals of material nature, and this explains it. The purpose of Sankhya is to detach oneself from material contamination. So when we understand the illusion and how it's presented before us in detail, it's kind of like we gave this example while we were studying this section. If a magician cuts a person in half on the stage, it appears like that person's actually in half. But when you see the drawings or you see the trick revealed, how there are actually two people, one with their legs out one side of the box and the other with their head out the other side of the box, the illusion is gone. It no longer is a trick. It's like every time you see it, you know what's happening. It's like one of those paintings where there's something hidden in the painting. Find the ball, and then you find it. Every time you look back at that picture, the quest to find the ball is lost because you've already done it. So in the same way, once one understands how this material world works, what it's made of, what its functions are, there's no longer the attraction for it. One can understand that real pleasure lies beyond it. So that's why there's fundamentals of material nature. It's revealing the trick of Maya and her illusions.
Wow, very big and serious topic. Sham, did you want to say something really quick about that subject?
Well, that was a nice summary of the theme. Thank you, Dhruvaraj, for
Yeah.
All right.
So Sama, let's do that. Read a chart, a slide, and then we'll go over that.
Okay. All right. So Premanandaji, would you like to read this chart? And then Chaitanya, you can read the next slide.
Okay, thank you. Chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature. Text 1 through 5, the Jiva in the conditioned state. 1 to 4, cause of conditioning of Jiva is false identification with Prakriti. 5, solution is to gradually control mind through bhakti, yoga, and virakti. 6 through 11, attaining liberation by yoga. 6, process is Ashtanga Yoga and hearing and faith in Lord. 7 through 10, 18 qualities to be cultivated by Gyanis. And text 11, characteristics of the Lord. Text 12 to 13, inferring the presence of soul and super soul. Inferring the presence of soul and super soul, okay. 14 through 16, the soul without material coverings. During deep sleep or at the time of universal destruction. 17 through 20, Devahuti's questions about the rarity of liberation. 17 through 19, since Prakriti and Jiva are attracted to each other, how is liberation possible? 20, fear of bondage may reappear again. 21 to 23, Kapila recommends intense practice, intense bhakti for a long time, perfect knowledge and renunciation, austerity, yoga, and self-absorption. 24 through 26, Prakriti cannot harm an enlightened soul. Sees the faults of Prakriti, knows the truth, with mind fixed on the Lord, he enjoys in the self. And finally, 27 through 30, final liberation of the yogi, engages in self-realization for many lifetimes with complete detachment and bhakti, and by Lord's mercy, he attains liberation.
It's such a nice chapter. I don't want to go on without touching some of the bases. Premananda, why don't you talk about some of those things? Let's go into this one about how, since Prakriti and the Jiva are attracted to each other, how is liberation possible? What's the answer?
Well, let me look at my notes. If I remember right, I think it's because he considers himself the doer, and that's how he became attached to the three modes and Prakriti. And liberation is only possible if he's freed from that bondage of considering
nice.
that doer.
And then comes to his real understanding of how to use everything in service rather than as the doer and enjoyer. Perfect.
There was something else I wanted to bring up on this one.
Okay.
21 to 23, intense bhakti for a long time, perfect knowledge and renunciation, austerity, yoga, and self-absorption, real self-absorption. Okay, this might be very discouraging, but we are very fortunate in this age that Lord Chaitanya has made it doable for us. If this was all we had, we really would be in trouble, the Kali Yuga people, right? So we are, when I read this, I mentioned this to my husband, that it's our great good fortune that Lord Chaitanya gave us this simple method of chanting Hare Krishna, engaging in service means do everything for Krishna. It's so simple. So we're very fortunate in this age of Kali, and there's so many verses about that I thought that was important to mention. Okay, then let's go on with, and thank you, Premananda, for all this contribution of organizing these charts. Cheta, would you like to read?
Hari Bol. Thank you, Mataji. Good morning, everyone. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:27, 5 and 6. It is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in very serious devotional service with detachment. Thus, his mind and consciousness will be under full control. One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Of the 9 different items of bhakti yoga, the first and foremost is to chant and hear about the Lord. That is also mentioned here. Matkata Shravanena Cha. One may come to this standard of faithfulness by following the rules and regulations of the yoga system, and the same goal can be achieved simply by chanting and hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord. Hari Bol.
Tell us something. How does this have to do with Lord Chaitanya's mercy?
Well, by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have the chanting of the holy name available to everyone. And we have his example, his total being consumed by thinking about Krishna. And he's the example of the perfect devotee. We have a concrete example of how to behave, of how to live our lives.
Good. And we also
And-
have the perfect example of Srila Prabhupada, right? Because he
Yes.
gave us what to hear. He gave us what to hear. You know, we need to understand why we're doing what we're doing. So Srila Prabhupada gave us all of this knowledge to help us understand that this is the simplest process.
So
Actually, it-
our desired nature cannot be destroyed. It simply has to be transferred. So all that energy that we put into our material desires, we simply put it into hearing and chanting. And I just wanted to say quickly in that regard, I am so grateful for these recordings that Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu has put together. And believe me, they help me every single day get through my day. I just turn on these recordings, whether I'm raking the lawn or doing dishes, and I can listen and over and become totally absorbed in this pure nectar. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Your service is priceless.
Thank you.
Oh, and I could bring it up now. It's a very special day today because it's my husband's birthday.
Haribol.
So everybody give him a nice
Hare
Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare
Hare.
No other blessings are greater than that. Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you.
One
Okay.
nice point here that will be repeated is that it says the purpose, this can be achieved simply by devotional service. Is this the one we read? No, that was an earlier one.
Of the 9
Ah, this
items,
one,
it's about
this
Shravana
one.
Kirtanam.
One may come to the standard of faithfulness by following the rules and regulations of the yoga system, which Lord Kapila Dev will give. Remember, this is meditating on the form of the Lord. And that Satya Yuga, of course, that activity of meditation was the Yuga Dharma. So he's explaining to his mother how to focus on the form of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada's purports, as Samapriya was just intimating, he weaves in the mercy of Lord Chaitanya in this age by saying the same goal can be achieved simply by chanting and hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord. Our process is not breath control, meditation, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Our process is shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam, and then we go from shraddha to bhajana kriya, anartha nivriti, shakti, nishta, ruchi, bhava, and prema, which are the same processes, only in developing love rather than simply meditating and going deeper into the form of the Lord. So let's go to the next one.
Okie dokie. Okay, so Gopaji, would you like to read this chart?
I'd do better reading the
Oh, okay.
the book part.
Okay. Kate, would you like to read the chart?
Yeah, yes. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Chapter 328, Lord Kapila's instructions on the execution of devotional service. 1 through 12, limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, definitions and details of Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. 13 through 18, description of the Lord's form for performing Dharana. Beauty of the Lord's face, eyes, bodily features, Srivatsa, Kastuba, Pitambara, etc. 19 through 33, Dhyana, meditation on the individual limbs of the Lord. 19 through 33, starting with the lotus feet and ending with his beautiful laughter. 34 through 38, liberation of the yogi and his state of mind. His detachment from everything material and achievement of his real identity. 39 through 44, thought process of a yogi. The yogi should see the super soul in all beings and all beings in the super soul.
Okay, so Dharana and Dhyana, these are two forms. This is meditation. How do you describe further? difference between those two.
I'd like to, Kate's a yoga teacher. Do they?
Oh, yeah, Kate, you're a yoga teacher. Go for it.
Well, this is completely it's not contradictory, but it's very different than, I mean, we have all of those steps, but we don't have Krishna usually included in the yoga studio yoga type of yoga.
Well,
This is, yeah, it's very, and so it's very dull, when we think of Dharana and Dhyana without Krishna, and what are we meditating on? And this was, I remember reading this, was just very beautiful, just to really systematically meditate on the Lord and his forms. And it's dull without Krishna. It's not even possible.
No. So you can you institute that? My daughter was teaching yoga for many years, and she was a yoga teacher of the teachers, and she always talked about meditate upon the Supreme. We meditate on Krishna, So we can that seems like a good way to end. Maybe.
I think Chattamai also has done some yoga teaching.
Yeah.
You raised your hand.
Speak, Donnie. Unmute, Donnie.
There we go. Thank you. So I taught yoga at MIT for 13 years. And one thing I did, I hope it was bona fide, was that during the Shavasana, when people are often practicing yoga nidra, I would read to the students from this very chapter, 328.
Yay! Of course it's bona fide.
Yeah, it was very good. People would listen to the beautiful description of Krishna. So
That's amazing. I never realized, but Kate, when you were speaking about it, they actually don't. What they just meditate on a flame or a dot or something of that
like
nature?
The void.
Huh?
It's very impersonal.
And go deeper and deeper into the dot, or deeper and deeper into the flame. Oh my goodness! We're so fortunate.
That's why you're a yoga teacher, Kate. Somehow or another, you got to teach the real yoga.
Somehow or another.
Somehow or another. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, now let's go to Gopa, and who's going to read the text.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:28, 18, and 19. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. Thus, always merged in devotional service, the yogi visualizes the Lord standing, moving, lying down, or sitting within him. For the pastimes of the Supreme Lord are always beautiful and attractive. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The process of meditating on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same. The only difference...
Read that sentence again, Gopa. It's a great one.
Okay. The process of meditating on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same. Yeah, that is pretty amazing. The only difference is that hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart. Because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed. And due to so much agitation, the process of seeing the Lord within the mind is interrupted. When there is sound vibrated praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. That hearing process enters into the mind, and the practice of yoga is automatically performed. Jai Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. He has given us something to meditate on. When we meditate, that's when we meditate on. We shouldn't be thinking that when we're chanting, we're not, the mind is blank. we're chanting, we meditate on Krishna, and all of these descriptions in the Bhagavatam, especially the different description of meditating on the form of the Lord. When do we do that? We do that when we're chanting. It helps us to be absorbed. That's very good.
One time, Satchidananda Swami gave, I can't remember what it was, in person or on the internet. He was saying that as you're chanting, you should build a throne in your heart, for the Lord to come sit on. And I really tried, but I ended up just getting a Brillo pad and just scrubbing my heart, because my heart is so dirty. I can't even build a throne.
You can. No, Krishna, which indicates that you can meditate on the form of the Lord. There's 4 things: Nama, Guna, Rupa, Lila. You chant the name, you remember the qualities, you think of the form of the Lord, and ultimately you absorb yourself in his pastimes. And so the name is the foundation. But we shouldn't, like Bhaktivinoda says, I'm sorry, I'm taking time, but Bhaktivinoda says that don't cut off the bud of the holy name and not allowing it to expand into the qualities of Krishna, into the form of the Lord, and into the pastimes. So, this seed of the holy name is like, it's an infinite seed and it has an infinite growth. So we're very fortunate. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you, Gopaji.
We're doing good on time now, so no need to.
Okay, well, we'll go on to the next verse. And we'll Manvantara. Would you like to do this for us, Manvantara?
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila. Chapter 1 through 6, Devahuti's further questions. She asked for more detail about bhakti, question number 5, the nature of time, question 6, and cycle of birth and death, question 7. Then there is glorifies Kapila. She glorifies Kapila. Chapter 7 through 20. Lord Kapila describes various classes of bhakti and answers to question number 5. Text 8 through 10. Performers of bhakti in the 3 modes. Text 11 through 14. Characteristics of pure bhakti beyond the 3 modes. Text 15 through 18. Angas of bhakti for the purification of the mind. Text 19 through 20. Practice of these angas of bhakti gives rise to pure bhakti. Chapter 21 through 27. Offenses are obstacles in bhakti and its solution. Text 21 through 24. If one neglects or discards me, present in all jivas, hates or criticizes others, his deity worship is imitation only, like oblations into ashes. That's Lord Kapila speaking. Text 25 through 27. Solution: perform duties and worship of the deity until one realizes the presence of the Lord in all. Chapter 28 through 36. Gradations of the jivas. Text 28 through 32. The gradations of jivas starting from inanimate objects to pure devotee. Text 33 through 34. Best is the person who has no interest outside of the Lord. Chapter 37 through 45 describes nature of time and answers to questions number 6.
So can we discuss this, Pati, or you want to go on to the text?
Oh, we can discuss. We're doing good.
Okay, good. Oh boy. So what jumped out at you, Manvantara? or anyone, but first Mama and Torah.
Um, um, not much really. I appreciate the chart really being done really nicely, but nothing specifically that I can comment on.
I think the texts on this particular one are really informative, Sam.
Okay, then we'll go there. But before we do, I just wanted to say the laughter of the Lord, starting with the lotus feet and ending up with the laughter, the beautiful laughter of the Lord. So the point would be, what would the point be? If you start with the lotus feet and end up with
Where
the laughter
did you
of the
find
Lord.
that? What texts?
I just saw it here, 19 through 33.
19 through 33. Are you
What
on the
about-
same chapter as we are?
Could be I'm not. Oh, no.
No, I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I'm not. I'm sorry.
She's just meditating on the laughter of the
It's the
Lord.
previous chapter.
I'm a little falling behind today. I didn't know I was that far behind. Okay, sorry about that. Let's go on. Midoriya, you want to read this? Do you, Leela G?
Sorry, yeah. Okay.
Okie dokie.
So, Srimad Bhagavatam 329, 8 to 12. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is a separatist, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotional service, is devotion in the mode of passion. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inabilities of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada's purport. The basic principle of this unadulterated pure devotional service is love of Godhead. The flow of the Ganges water cannot be stopped by any condition. Similarly, a pure devotee's attraction for the transcendental name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Godhead cannot be stopped by any material condition. The word avichina, without interruptions, is very important in this connection. No material condition can stop the flow of devotional service of a pure devotee.
Okay, before I ask you to describe this, Sham, did you recognize that? That was exactly the point that we were discussing when you asked that question about our.
Yes, I noted the last sentence.
Okay, so even the whole purport has to do with, you want to bring it back to the purport, Betsy? Because that whole purport has to do with how it does not matter what material situation we are in. Why don't you read that too?
Which one?
The flow of the Ganges. Okay, well, you can leave the word avichina. Go on.
The word avichina, without interruptions, is very important in this connection. No material condition can stop the flow of the devotional service of a pure devotee. That does say pure devotee.
Okay, well, we're following a pure devotee. So we so naturally we will make advancement because we're following the pure devotee and we're becoming pure devotee.
Your question, Sham, as I remember it, was, is karma involved in how one is making advancement in devotional service? Wasn't that more or less the gist of the question?
More subtle. Everyone has a package, right? And some packages seem more favorable. Let's say that I was born into a family and I had $10 million and I could just do service all the time. Of course, that's not the question I was asking, but is there packages that are more favorable for?
Okay, let's just take that one package, since that's the one that jumped to your mind as an apparently more favorable circumstance, correct? How many people do you know that have millions and millions of dollars and have that wonderful facility are taking advantage of it?
Yeah, no.
One?
We know one.
We know
We know
one.
one. Ambarish.
I'm very sure probably, yeah.
Right? It's not necessarily, of course, Srila Prabhupada gave that example, you know, the famous lecture with the zeros and the one before them. If you have so many different material assets, but you don't use them for Krishna, then they're useless. They're like a whole bunch of zeros. But if you have those facilities, you come across a pure devotee like Ambarish did, and then he transferred all that learning, education, good upbringing, good family, his influence in society, and his wealth for Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada said it's like putting one in front of the zeros. It becomes 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million, a billion, a trillion, because all those different assets then are being used for the proper purpose. Whereas if we don't have Krishna, then the purpose of the assets is useless. It's not being used properly, so there's no real benefit to it.
But then one might ask, well, what about the rest of us? We don't have $10 million. It's not usually, that's not usually, in fact, it's opposite. The devotees usually don't have anything material. Krishna, who has everything, takes everything away from the devotee because it's an impediment on the path back to Godhead, you know? So better off you're in a dependent situation because we have to learn how to be dependent on Krishna, you know? Not
Well,
that, go on.
Go ahead. Yeah, I think part two of the question is that it seems it's a gradual process. It's not that we maybe love God in just one attempt. So in that way, I would assume that we're placed better for the next time. So therefore, our material circumstance does have an effect.
What do you mean we're placed there? What does that mean? What do you mean
We're placed in a better position to pick up bhakti. I mean, either way,
because of our activities in our past lives.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
But-
just like our very dear Srila Prabhupada disciples, they are placed right next to Prabhupada at this particular time.
Cause us mercy. Cause us
Well,
mercy.
you can put any kind of title on it or label, but bring it back to his question. Do the material circumstances affect one's advancement? Tatamayi?
So I was thinking about the story that Prabhupada told about a woman who was given the service of bringing water to the temple every day for use in deity worship. And every day, this woman who lived in a remote village, she had very little material assets. She simply performed her service of going to the river, filling the bucket, walking up the hill, and bring it to the temple. And to me, that's the ideal attitude, that, you know, this is what I got. This is what my circumstance, but I'm doing it for Krishna, and I'm going to do it every day, no matter what. And in that situation, Prabhupada said she attained perfection. There was no more aspiration or effort required than that simple daily service.
And she wasn't thinking, oh, poor me, I only have a glass of water. That glass of water was her heart, actually. She carried her heart and gave it to Krishna. So really, is that straight for you now, Sham, or you got some more questions about that? Because that's a really important point.
It's fine. I think it's multi-layered, but I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay. And Majoria, did you want to say something about this verse? I'm sorry, Dolly. This just seemed to really go along with what his question was.
Oh, it just reminded me of Queen Kunti's prayers.
Yeah.
You know, that she wanted her devotion to flow down just like the water of the Ganges. unobstructed to Krishna, so to speak.
Right. And usually material obstruction is not the obstruction, you know? In fact, just one more real quick thing. It doesn't matter if you're in Vrindavan or meditating on Vrindavan. This came up before, that if you could be in the holy Dham now, meditating on Vrindavan, meditating on Krishna, because Vrindavan is where only devotional service is going on. So you can be there even if you're in the middle of New York City or wherever you are. You can actually transcend the whole material setup and engage in devotional service to Krishna. There's so many examples about that, you know. So, all right, that's a very big topic that we can get into another time. And now, Madhurya Leela, Tisha, would you like to read, Tisha?
Yes, thank you, Gigi. 3:30. Description of Lord Kapila of adverse fruitive activities. 1 to 18. Life and death of a materialist. Verse 1 through 3. The power of time destroys everything that he acquires, leading him to lamentation. 4 and 5. He finds a particular satisfaction in any kind of species, even in hell. 5 through 8. Impetus for family life. Deep-rooted attraction for family, especially women and children. 7, 9, and 10. Constant anxiety to maintain that family. Commits violence, goes to hell. 11 through 13, unsuccessful in maintaining family, desiring others well, failures, and disrespect from the family. 14 and 18, old age, disease, and death. 19 through 34, his post-death experience. 19, passes stool and urine and then sees the Yamadutas. 20 through 23, on the way to hell, he's bitten by dogs, hunger, thirst. He falls in fatigue, passes 99,000 yojanas. 24 through 38, undergoes various hellish punishments. 29, sometimes hellish punishments are visible in earth also. 30 through 33, who goes to hell? One who maintains oneself and family by sinful means. Anda Tamishra. 34, hell to lower births, and then to human birth. Whew.
You have to unmute, Sama.
No, I was just, in awe of this trip that we have gone through over and over and over again. From hell to lower birth to human birth, and round and around and around we go. I'm done. I'm so done with this. I hope everyone's done. Let's just get out of here, and we're out of here. Anyone else have something to say? Tisha, what do you think about this? I mean, does it make sense to you that we have to really unmute, darling?
It scares me. It scares the crap out of me. I don't want to experience that again. I'm trying to prepare myself for that moment of death when I get to leave this material world. I don't want to come back either.
No, good. It's working then. It's working. If you don't want to come back to the material world, whatever's being done to you now is working. And, and we all lament about that situation that's being done. But, oh my goodness. Good. Hare Krishna, taking shelter of the right lotus feet. Okie dokie. Sham, would you like to read this? And thank you so much, Tisha.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 30, Text 3 to 7. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent, and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which are in relationship to that body, are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. The living entity, in whatever species of life he appears, finds a particular type of satisfaction in that species, and he is never adverse to being situated in such a condition. The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life, While deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy, he feels little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. Such satisfaction with one's standard of living is due to deep-rooted attraction for body, wife, home, children, animals, wealth, and friends. In such association, the conditioned soul thinks himself quite perfect. Although he is always burning with anxiety, such a fool always performs all kinds of mischievous activities with a hope which is never to be fulfilled in order to maintain his so-called family and society.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you convinced?
Yeah.
Does anyone remember the Sanskrit words that were used in this section about how the conditioned living entity becomes satisfied in whatever condition it's in?
Wasn't it just like we read? It was Tamishra, under Tamishra.
Those are actually names of hells. Those are names of planets that people go to for
Okay.
specific actions that they perform. There are specific hells, just like different types of punishment in a prison. There's misdemeanors and there's capital punishment and everything in between. So those are the different hells, those names. Does anybody remember the English concept, English words rather than the Sanskrit words, of how the conditioned living entity becomes satisfied in a condition, whatever it might be? It's an important principle of material nature and our position in it.
Yeah, it's push and pull. It's the push and pull again, and you get then the jiva gets covered over again.
It's push and cover.
Push
Push and
and
cover.
cover. Okay,
Yeah. Chatamai?
and cover. Yeah.
Avaranatmika, covering, and
Oh,
Pashepatmika,
Right.
pulling
very good.
down.
Very thank you.
Haribol.
Prakshepatmika means that the living entity. So Kapila Dev, let's kind of look at the string and the thread of how he's weaved his examples. He explained to his mother that devotional service is actually the nature of the living entity. Then he went into the fundamentals of material nature and described how the illusion covers the living entity. Then he described different activities that the living entities perform and the results of those activities, the adverse activities of fruitive action. Now he's explaining that no matter what position the material nature pushes the soul into, that soul, it might even be a pig or a worm in stool or a demigod, we become satisfied and adapt to that condition, thinking that we're happy. And that illusion has to be broken. So the pinching of material nature is actually a blessing because it wakes us up from that delusion.
and on the other side, if your karma is that you don't get pinched so much, then perhaps you might remain asleep. So that's why Krishna is known as he takes away, Hari, he takes away, one who takes away. So he takes away the illusion of the material world from the lives of his devotees. So karma actually doesn't have much to do with it, really. Yeah. Great good fortune has something to do with it. And it's opposite. We think in the world, great good fortune is great wealth and wonderful family and lots of sons and the whole everything. But great good fortune is meeting a pure devotee of Krishna so that you know what this whole thing is all about. And that's not karma.
These next two are just charts.
No.
They're kind of similar. They blend
Okay.
together, both chapters.
All right. Okay. Premananda. Wait a minute. Did Sham just read? I'm losing it, folks.
Yes, I just read.
Okay, darling. Premananda ji, could you read the next two slides?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. 1 through 11, the jiva's entrance, growth, and suffering in the womb. 1 through 4, stages of embryonic development. 5 through 11, sufferings within the womb, worm bites, eating wrong food by mother, etc. 12 through 21, prayers by the devotee Jiva within the womb. 12 to 14, I take shelter of him. Although he is with me, he is unaffected. 15 and 16, by his mercy I got bhakti, so I worship him only. 17, suffering here is intolerable, I want to get out. 18 through 19, by your mercy I am awakened to consciousness. 20 through 21, don't take me out, I will deliver myself with my intelligence by surrendering unto you. 22 through 31, suffering of the jiva after he comes out of the womb. 22 to 27, deprived of memory, smeared with stool and blood, lying on a foul bed infested with sweat and germs, beaten by many creatures, he cries bitterly. 28 through 31, even in boyhood, he suffers due to hankering and lamentation. He continues activities that bind him again. 32 through 42, effects of bad association. Avoid bad association of sinful people who are dancing dogs in the hands of women. 35 to 42, be aware of opposite sex. Even Brahma got attracted. Only Narayan could resist. It kicks even great kings and is the gateway to hell. For a woman, man is Maya. 43 to 48, understanding birth and death. 44 to 46, death, end of reaction of an activity. Death means end of reaction of an activity. Birth means beginning of a reaction.
Yeah.
47 through 48, live with right vision, reason, devotion, and detachment. Chapter 32, entanglement.
Wait. This is a lot of information. Is everything? That's a real lot.
Yeah, but it's basically just birth and entanglement, and I think it goes well with the next chapter, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to take in. Oh my goodness. Okay, go on.
Chapter 32, entanglement in fruitive activities. 1 through 4, attached workers. They perform dharma to attain artha and kama, averse to bhakti, worships pitras and devas. They go to moon planet and return back to earth. 5 through 7, detached workers. They execute swadharma with detachment. They travel through the path of the sun and attain the Lord. Text 18 through 15, Hiranyagarbha worshippers. They remain in Satyalok till the end of Brahma's life and be liberated with him. And 11 through 15, liberation is not possible without bhakti, so better perform bhakti. 16 to 21, Lord Kapila criticizes Sakama karma. 16 through 19, persons with minds absorbed in family affairs, in passion, worship the forefathers and are averse to Harikatha. 20 to 21, they go to Pitralok and return to the earth. 22 to 26, by bhakti, goals of other paths are also achieved. 22 and 23, jnana and vairagya are quickly achieved by practice of bhakti. 24 and 25, symptoms of a devotee. 26, one Bhagavan is perceived differently through different processes. 27 through 31, Lord Kapila speaks on jnana. 27, detachment is common to all practitioners. 28 through 31, the Lord is the source of everything. 32 through 36, the various paths, ultimately to realize Bhagavan. The one Lord is perceived differently through different scriptural practices. 37 through 43, qualification to receive this knowledge. Unqualified people, qualified people, and Falashruti.
Okay, that's a lot. Wait, but could you bring it back to the verse again so people can see that? I love the reference here on 26. One Bhagavan is perceived differently through different processes, and then 32 to 36, the one Lord is perceived differently through different scriptural practices. What does that mean? Premanand.
Well, I think people perceive the Lord for different practices recommended in various scriptures, such practices are like pious activities, sacrifices, charities, Vedic study, control of mind and senses, and so on. But what Lord Kapila Dev is saying that ultimately it's all about becoming attached to Bhagavan and performing bhakti. That's the only way. So even though there are various paths, but one who performs bhakti, he has basically executed all the different other practices recommended in the scriptures. And yeah, I think that's what I remember.
I see. So anyone else has something to say about one Bhagavan is perceived differently through different processes? Any of the yogis? No? So this one, everybody is an individual. We're all individuals, right? And we all have a different relationship with Krishna. And through different, he is the same. He is the same for all of us. But still, he has a relationship with all of us. That's what it meant to me. That Krishna has a relationship with every single one of us. And okay, Chaitanya.
The concept that each person has an Ishtadeva is coming into play here. Certain people are attracted to Lord Narasimhadev. Certain people are attracted to Lord Ram. So that Krishna is so thorough. He gives everybody a chance according to their particular nature.
Complete. It says that in the Sri Upanishad. He's complete. You can't take anything away. Even if you take something away from the complete, he still remains complete. So he is the source of.
I just had another question, which is related to the previous chapter 31, the movements of the living entities. So I have a family member who is in pregnancy now, and she's favorable to bhakti, although I don't think she's read much of the Bhagavatam. Do you recommend that I direct her to this chapter to read, or is that just too disruptive? I don't know. What do you think, Mataji?
Oh my goodness. Why not? I mean, she's favorable. Is she intelligent?
Absolutely.
This is written. Why not? Then you're there to help her understand.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I think that all of this knowledge should be preached to everyone. You know, and that's why we're trying to understand it so that we can preach to everyone. We can give people as much as we can answer the questions also.
I have a slight suggestion. I just think the prayers of the baby in the womb, look them over first, because the whole description, if she's not familiar with some of the other aspects that were described about the horrible condition of the baby, that might not be very encouraging for her, obviously. But,
Okay.
you know, and if she's in that condition, it might really affect her differently. But the prayers of the baby in the womb, look them over, maybe pick some of them and explain how the baby actually might be praying from within her womb. That might be really encouraging and enlightening.
Beautiful. Beautiful direction. Thank you, Prabhu. I will try that.
Good. All right, we're almost finished here. And
Sham?
yes, Sham.
This chapter seems to say that Krishna is so merciful that he gives gradations of religion as well, and that if you want to meet him this way, he'll provide that facility, and this way he'll provide that facility. So not just an Istadev, but from where you're at, from where your consciousness is, you can practice. And that's why there's all these different religions in the world today.
Right. There's different levels. Prabhupada talk about that often. There's different levels of religion. But religion is one. It means I'm a servant of Krishna. Krishna is God, or God is one. We're all his servants. That's the actual religion of the soul. So, and as you said, it is delivered in different ways to different kinds of people all over the world. It's really wonderful to meet up with people who are open enough to understand that we're all children of the same Supreme Lord. It's a great, that's the only place that we can unite with everyone from. You know, we're always trying to do that in our preaching, aren't we? Trying to unite with everyone on that eternal platform of the soul. Very good. All right, so Chita, you want to read this?
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 332, 37 through 43. My dear mother, I have explained to you the process of devotional service and its identity in 4 different social divisions. I have explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them. There are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostics, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior. Nor is it for hypocrites or for persons who are proud of material possessions. It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, nor to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead. Instruction should be given to the faithful devotee who is respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment for that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. Haribol!
Oh,
Wow.
So nice.
Okay. Wonderful.
Wow. So that third paragraph, the description of those who are not qualified to hear the instruction, isn't that the majority?
Seems
My
to
God.
be in
My
this planet.
God. Oh my gosh.
How did we wind up here?
Yeah, right.
I tell you how we wound up here, because Srila Prabhupada came here, and by some good fortune, we were in the line, and here we are. We're very fortunate. That's how we wound up here. Very good.
Jai Gurudev.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else have something to say about this? Gopa. Let's ask Gopa what she has to say about this, because the last 2 slides, one is a chart and one of the verses, and she's scheduled to read the chart. Uh-oh. Gopa.
Haribo.
Haribo. So what do you think about this? Not in Europe. She's a big preacher, Gopa. So what about this not being not preaching to the people who are envious, and this instruction should only be given to those who are pure in heart. How do you experience that when you're out there?
Well, I just go through a formula that Vaisheshika Prabhu gave me like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You trust the hand. You trust the hand. You hold your hand up and you wave. It's your radar. You hold your hand up and you wave it. And if someone waves back to you or smiles at you, you're pretty much guaranteed that they're going to want to listen.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Yeah. And if you you know, and so the person's nice and they stop and they say, you know, they say something or something, and you can tell that they're not interested at all. You know, you just let them go because you're looking for the ripe fruits. The ripe fruits. I think Prabhupada used to ask for the mangoes that would grow on the east side of the tree or something, because he said they were the most ripe and the most flavorful. And so when we go on Sankirtan, we're looking for the ripe fruits. We're not out there to argue with people who are on another path or, you know, are going some other place. You know, you can't convince them. You just have to pick the ripe fruits. And there's ripe fruits out there. And they're dropping all over the place. And the devotees need to go pick them up and bring them home.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Well, you want to attempt reading the slide, Gopaji?
Well,
so Kate
I'm
can
on
read
my,
them.
I'm on my phone. So
Oh, you're on your phone.
Let her read the
Yeah,
next
on my
slide,
phone.
Sama.
Okay, well, Kate, you have to read the slide, sweetie.
Oh, that's okay. I don't
Okay,
mind.
good. Because actually it's very logical, and the way Premananda did it, he covered every single thing within, you know, one sentence. It's really spectacular. So
It
go on.
is.
Activities of Kapila.
So activities of Kapila 1 through 8, Devahuti's prayers. 1 through 3, the Lord as the cause of unlimited universes. 4 through 5, the Lord as Vata Putra Sai, the purpose of his appearance. 6 through 7, even a Chandala who chants the holy name of the Lord becomes glorious. 8, respects to various forms of the Lord. 9 through 12, Lord Kapila gave final instructions to Devahuti and left. Achieve prema by having faith in these instructions, as many self-realized persons have achieved perfection by following this path. Devahuti achieved perfection. 13 through 23, her practice, bhakti, intense austerity, detachment, meditation on the Lord's forms. 24 through 32, her achievement, bliss due to the destruction of Siddhapada, and her purified body became a sacred river. 33 through 35, activities of Kapila, went towards the northeast. Even now, Ganga Sarga, even now he stays there in trance for the deliverance of the three worlds. Phala Shruti, one who hears the teachings of this knowledge attains the Lord's lotus feet and abode.
Unmute, Sam.
You know what Phala Shruti means? The
Something.
fruit, the
Mhm.
fruit
Yeah.
of hearing, the fruit of hearing. So that's always there at the end of all these chapters of the Bhagavatam. We see the Phala Shruti, the benediction of hearing this Bhagavatam.
It's actually also inherent in these places. Here, as Kate was reading, I was following this one. Lord Kapila Dev gives the final instructions, and this he instructed that you can achieve prema by having faith in these instructions, as many self-realized persons have achieved perfection by following this path. And then it describes how she achieved perfection, and then it says that one who hears this will achieve perfection. So it's like there's a historical reference and proof that this works.
Right, and also up to 6 to 7,
Oops.
Patti 6 to 7. This is also for you, Sham. You got me on it. Even a Chandala who chants the holy name of the Lord becomes glorious. So actually the same reference is being referred to here. It does not matter what material situation one is in. He is capable of surrendering to Krishna in any situation. So even someone who's glorious who's Chandala, which is a very low kind of person, and somebody who's very opulent with a lot of facility materially is not glorious because he's not using everything for Krishna. So
Okay, I accept.
Okay, it's like Krishna's like giving all this. It's wonderful. It was a very wonderful point that you brought up, and it's something that we sometimes get confused about, right? We get confused thinking that Oh my goodness, nothing is good happening to me. But meanwhile, we're imperceptibly making advancement because we're taking to this philosophy and chanting the holy name and hearing and associating. So
Right, I was going to argue that the lady who brought the water for Krishna, she just had a nice disposition. She was given, a really simple psychological condition, so that was favorable. But anyway,
oh, okay, this lady was in Vrindavan and bringing water to Radha Damodar every day. So that was, and she was very fortunate to be there. You're right. Very perfect disposition. That disposition might be karmic. But even though Prabhupada came and we are full of other dispositions and we're chanting Hare Krishna. So no matter what disposition you're thinking that would be the inhibiting you or anyone, the holy name is stronger. This philosophy is stronger. This path of bhakti given by Lord Chaitanya is stronger. Have a little faith, dear. I'll tell you one quick. Lord Chaitanya, at the end of Harinam Chintamani, Haridas Thakur asks Lord Chaitanya, what is the difference between two people? One person is making a lot of advancement and one person is not making any advancement, and they're doing the same thing. So what's happening different for both of them? Lord Chaitanya said, it is a matter of faith. It's a matter of faith. So we have to have faith in the words of the Acharyas, faith in the words of Sri Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. And then okay, are we finished? Well, we have one more. And now Gopal will read this for us. Thank you, Kate.
Gopal's gonna read. Picture over here. My dear Vidura, Srimad Bhagavatam. I can't even see that. 3:30:30:37. My dear Vidura, by following the principles instructed by Kapila, Devahuti soon became liberated from material bondage and achieved the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Supersoul without difficulty. The place where Devahuti achieved her perfection, my dear Vidura, is understood to be a most sacred spot. It is known all over the three worlds as Siddhapada. Dear Vidura, the material elements of her body have melted into water and are now a flowing river, which is the most sacred of all rivers. Anyone who bathes in that river also attains perfection, and therefore all persons who desire perfection go bathe there. My dear Vidura, the great sage Kapila, the personality of Godhead, left his father's hermitage with the permission of his mother and went towards the northeast. While he was passing in the northern direction, all the celestial denizens known as Charnas and Gandharvas, as well as the Munis and the damsels of the heavenly planets, prayed and offered him all respects. The ocean offered him oblations and a place of residence. Even now, Kapila Muni is staying there in trance for the deliverance of the conditioned souls in the three worlds. And all the acharyas, or great teachers of the system of Sankhya philosophy, are worshiping him. My dear son, since you have inquired from me, I have answered, O sinless one, the descriptions of Kapila Dev and his mother and their activities are the purest of all pure discourses. The description of the dealings of Kapila Dev and his mother is very confidential, and anyone who hears or reads this narration becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is carried by Garuda, and he therefore enters into the abode of the Supreme Lord to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord.
Hare
Bol.
Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Whoa.
Isn't it wonderful? What a thing that we heard. We've all heard this together. How wonderful. Thank you all
Yes,
so much.
thank you, everyone, for all your association,
was
for all through all the details, months.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Always wonderful. And also, I just have to say that there's two other birthdays today. Sesha Prabhu and my husband have been celebrating their birthdays together for years. And anyway, that's your father-in-law, Sham. You know that. And,
Yes.
and also,
Tisha also wrote that her husband
yes, her
Wade.
husband, Wade's birthday. And we're glad to see everyone, and we wish everyone the greatest Krishna consciousness now and eternally. Okay, well, thank you all very much. Anyone else have something to add to this? Because we won't see you for a while.
Yes, everyone be safe.
Yeah,
Have a
be
wonderful
safe.
summer. We'll see you October.
See you in
All
October.
glories, all glories, all glories to
Krishna.
Samapriya Dasi,
Oh, Hare
Dhruva Maharaj
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Ah,
Vanchakalpatarujasya.
Kripa
Kripa
Sindhu
Sindhu Devacha.
Devachan,
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hari Hari.
Thank you for your association. See you later. Hare
All glories to
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Hari
All
Bol.
glories to Srila Prabhupada.